Hello, YouTube. I recently finished reading the books of Samuel and I've started to read the books of Kings. And the book of First Kings describes Solomon's construction of the temple. And there's a particular object that's constructed for the temple that caught my attention. It's described in chapter 7, verses 23 through 26. Then he made the cast sea. It was round 10 cubits from brim to brim, and 5 cubits high. A line of 30 cubits would encircle it completely. Under its brim were panels all round it, each of 10 cubits surrounding the sea. There were 2 rows of panels cast when it was cast. It stood on 12 oxen, 3 facing north, 3 facing west, 3 facing south, and 3 facing east. The sea was set on them. The hind quarters of each were towards the inside. Its thickness was a handbreadth. Its brim was made like the brim of a cup, like the flower of a lily. It held 2,000 baths. Now, the traditional name for this object, the Molten Sea, simply comes from the King James Version's description of how the object was made. Now, the New Revised Standard uses cast sea. And there's no description of the object's practical purpose or really symbolic significance in the king's passage. And there's only one brief explanation of the object's purpose given in 2 Chronicles chapter 4 verse 6. The sea was for the priests to wash in. So now I'm quite intrigued as to the purpose and significance of this object. It was specifically constructed and placed outside the entrance of the temple. And yet, in the Hebrew Bible itself, we're not given a lot of data on precisely what it was and how it served a ritualistic purpose. But the notes in the New Oxford Annotated Bible had this to say about the king's passage. The molten sea was a large metal basin filled with water, representing the primeval watery chaos subdued by the Lord, creator of the world. See Psalm 74. So that got me a little intrigued, and I began to look up some information on this molten sea, and I came across an article which was written by Sung-Il Kang in the Department of Near Eastern Studies at Johns Hopkins University. It was published in the journal Biblica, volume 89 from 2008. And I was surprised to see that it was published. This journal is published by the Pontifical Biblical Institute in Rome. Yeah, it's official, a Catholic thing. So I'd like to read some from his article. Now, he gives grammatical, historical, and ceremonial reasons for why the name Molten Sea may want to be questioned. This designation, however, suggests either that the Deuteronomistic historian intentionally downplayed the original mythological import of the sea's name by deriving it from its construction material, or that the historian did not fully understand the meaning and significance of the sea's archaic name. The second suggestion is not too difficult to imagine in view of the fact that the sea, having been dismantled by King Ahaz, already went out of use in the 8th century BCE. It has been shown that the earlier Solomonic temple, as an earthly replica of the divine abode, was replete with mythological elements, such as the representations of cherubim, lions, palm trees, and open flowers. One is also reminded in this connection of the epithets of the altar and of its base in Ezekiel's vision of the new temple. The altar is given the name, and then 2 Hebrew names. I can't read Hebrew. The latter being understood to mean the mountain of God. In addition, the base of the altar is called the bosom of the earth. These names, without doubt, have cosmic mythological resonances. The basin's religious significance in the Solomonic temple was comparable to that of the altar, as suggested by the fact that the basin and the altar were the 2 most important cultic appurtenances occupying the court of the temple. Accordingly, the name of the basin should be one that best illustrates the basin's religious and cosmic import as discussed below. The Creator God's conflict with the chaotic force of the primordial waters is well attested in ancient Near Eastern literature. This motif's Hebrew version contains particular allusions to the sea as Yahweh's primary antagonist in creation. The name can be understood against this mythological backdrop. Whether Israelite kingship was sacral remains a moot question. But as regards its related issue of the New Year festival in ancient Israel, many scholars seemingly believe that the Israelites celebrated a festival analogous to the Babylonian Akitu festival, during which Enuma Elish was recited. Let's see. I suggest that, and then the phrase usually translated molten sea, should be seen as one such cultic proclamation declared during the New Year festival and should be translated, "The sea has been constrained." And I'll be a little more direct and say, Yam has been constrained. Now, see, Yam is the Hebrew word for sea, and it just so happens that Yam is the name of the god of the primordial chaotic sea, which is also personified as a dragon, which was killed by Baal in the Baal epic of Canaan. And I looked up a few different passages in the Hebrew Bible, regarding Yahweh's vanquishment of the foe, which is called Leviathan or Rahab. And I wanted to see if there were any references in the Hebrew Bible where the sea, Yam, is also personified. And I was able to find a few. This is from Psalm 74, verses 12 through 15. Yet God my King is from of old, working salvation in the earth. You divided the sea, Yam, by your might. You broke the heads of the dragons in the waters. You crushed the heads of Leviathan. You gave him his food for the creatures of the wilderness. You cut openings for springs and torrents. You dried up ever-flowing streams. So the sea, Yam, appears to be equated to the heads of the dragons, which is also equated to the heads of Leviathan. And here's an interesting verse. This is from Job 3:8. Now, the New Revised Standard Version reads, "Let those curse it who curse the sea, those who are skilled to rouse up Leviathan." Sea again being Yam. And the Masoretic text actually reads, "Let those who curse it who curse the day." The Hebrew word Yom instead of Yam. But this has been a pretty controversial verse, and it seems to me that translating that as sea actually sets up a better parallelism to Leviathan. And also, the conservative New International Version even suggests the sea as an alternate reading. There's a couple other verses in Job which personify the sea, or Yam, also. Job 7:12 says, "Am I the sea or the dragon that you set a guard over me?" And also Job 26:12. "By his power he stilled the sea, Yam. By his understanding he struck down Rahab." So it seems that references to Yam, the god that Baal killed, have happened to show up in the Hebrew Bible as well. And that the molten sea, may be best seen as, a symbolic representation of Yahweh's containment of this ancient primeval foe.